The Russia and Ukraine are unrelenting. Both sides are striking each other despite the competing self-imposed ceasefires in the run-up to the Victory Day parade celebrations in Moscow. Now, Moscow has threatened Kyiv's decision-making centers of retaliatory strikes, while Zelensky has said that Moscow's main parade now depends on Ukraine. So the big question, of course, is this: whether Ukraine will defy Russia's ceasefire. Our next report explores.
The war drums are growing louder. Missiles and drones are raining on both sides. Russia and Ukraine are hammering each other with relentless strikes, despite competing ceasefires. Moscow has bombarded Ukraine's second-largest city, Kyiv, in its latest assault. Ukrainian authorities claim Russian drone strikes lit up the skyline, leaving civilians scrambling for life. But Russia maintains it never targeted civilians or civilian-related infrastructure across Ukraine. Zelensky accuses Moscow of ignoring a proposed ceasefire while continuing large-scale strikes across Ukraine. He has issued a stern warning to Russia, saying Kyiv will respond fairly to Russia's ongoing attacks.
Україна буде діяти дзеркально. Залежно від ситуації вночі.
Ukraine will act in kind. Depending on the situation overnight and tomorrow, we will also determine our fully justified responses. Russia has received from us a clear proposal on silence of the guns and diplomacy and knows how to contact Ukraine or our partners in order to coordinate the details. If the one person in Moscow who cannot live without war cares only about one parade and nothing else, that's a different story.
Цікавить тільки один парад і більше нічого, то це інша справа.
Ukraine is striking back hard. Kyiv has reportedly launched a massive 347 drone blitz, targeting a military logistics hub near Moscow. This is one of the biggest aerial assaults by Ukraine in the last 4 years. The deep strikes by Ukraine inside Russia over the past few days has put Russian authorities on their toes. The Kremlin has intensified security as the country prepares to host the high-profile Victory Day celebrations, marking the anniversary of victory in World War II. Moscow has been fortified. Russian National Guard soldiers and armed Interior Ministry police have been deployed across key locations. Extra security measures have been put in place for Putin in case Ukraine carried out strikes on May 9th. Russia has scaled back celebrations this year. Tanks and missiles will not roll through the Red Square for the first time in almost 2 decades. A decision that has been taken after Ukraine launched drone attacks as far away as the Urals. Russia has drawn a fresh red line for Ukraine. Moscow has threatened Kyiv's decision-making centers of retaliatory attacks if Ukraine strikes Moscow during Victory Day celebrations.
The Russian Foreign Ministry strongly urges the authorities of your country, the leadership of your organization, to treat this statement with the utmost responsibility and to ensure the advance evacuation from the city of Kyiv of personnel of diplomatic and other missions, as well as citizens, in view of the inevitability of a retaliatory strike by the armed forces of the Russian Federation against Kyiv.
МИД России настоятельно призывает власти.
Zelensky is defiant. He has sent out a blunt message saying Russia's military parade depends on Ukraine. The Ukrainian president has accused Moscow of rejecting Kyiv's ceasefire proposal and continuing attacks across multiple regions. Ukraine and Russia have traded fire 1,820 times after Putin announced ceasefire on May 4th in the run-up to Victory Day. As the fighting rages on and deadlock over peace talks prevails, Ukraine's top negotiator is in Miami for a meeting with U.S. representatives. Victory Day is one of Russia's most symbolic national events, showcasing patriotic pride. Any disruption, any strike near Moscow could trigger a dangerous new escalation. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
All right, now joining us all the way from Washington, D.C., we've got Mr. Zelensky, who's a former Undersecretary of Defense in George Bush's administration, currently a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Mr. Zelensky, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. Now, what Volodymyr Zelensky has said is very interesting. He says that this Victory Day parade of the Russians can happen at the mercy of the Ukrainians. Where do you think Volodymyr Zelensky has got this new confidence where this is a serious threat that he's now issued to Russia?
Well, as you reported just now, the Ukrainians have hit as far as the Ural Mountains, which means Moscow is within Ukraine's range. And essentially what Mr. Zelensky is saying is if Russia continues to reject Ukraine's offer of a ceasefire, which it has, and continues to attack civilian targets, which Russia denies, but which we all know, we can see with our own eyes, has happened over and over again, then Ukraine could attack Red Square, could attack the parade. That would be a major political disaster, more than military, political disaster for Vladimir Putin. It would be a super embarrassment if any of the Ukrainian missiles or drones, long-range drones, whatever, gets through. And of course, Russia has responded very, very fiercely to the threat. So what you have, instead of any kind of real talks about a ceasefire, you have mutual threats building up to Victory Day.
Mr. Zelensky, you know, the fact that what is unfolding in the Middle East, the Iran war, seems to have overshadowed the war in Ukraine. Donald Trump has, of course, been trying really hard to bring about some kind of a deal between Russia and Ukraine. He's also said that the United States is drawing down its support for Ukraine in this war. But considering what has been happening in the last 3 to 4 weeks, has Ukraine, in your assessment, built up capabilities where it can actually fight this war without American backing?
Well, Ukraine now has an influx of money to begin with because of the EU's decision to lend Ukraine money on very generous terms. So that's number one. That's a big change. Number two is Ukraine now probably can provide for at least 50% of its own needs because of its amazing military-industrial complex. And number three, if you actually look at the progress of this war, at the beginning of the war, Russia occupied about 22% of Ukraine. Now, the best estimates are that it occupies something less than 20%. In other words, on the ground, Ukraine has held its own. It hasn't been able to win back much territory, but it's held its own. And so when you look at all those factors, and I'm not even clear as to what Mr. Trump means by cutting back on Ukraine. He's not going to sell anything directly to Ukraine. We know that. But as long as we continue to sell to the Europeans, who then transfer to Ukraine, and let's not forget that the Europeans are ramping up their own equipment support, materiel support for Ukraine, and they even have facilities inside Ukraine to build munitions. Rheinmetall, for example, the German company, has done that for some time now. The Ukrainians aren't in that bad a position at all, and many analysts now say that Ukraine's actually winning the war.
Interesting. We'll have to see as to how things unfold. Thank you very much, Mr. Zelensky, for joining us with our perspective there.
Thank you for having me.